My uncle just backed out on a proposition. He was supposed to give me $10,000 to help him with the coding of this one program since I'm a coder. However, he went against his promise, and guys, you won't believe what he had the audacity to do. So, what do? I expose him to the entire family, and you won't believe how this went down.
Hello everyone. Well, you can call me OP. There's a lot to go over here, so this is going to be a long post. I'm in a predicament with my uncle and I need a place to vent. To give you all some background information, I'm a recent college graduate. My whole life, I've been obsessed with computers. Ever since I was a little girl, I've loved programming. My family's always been technologically inclined, and so I was exposed to these things at a young age. Growing up, it always kind of made me the weird kid at school. I was always the only girl in my computer class growing up, but it's always been my passion. Naturally, when the time came to apply for college, I was interested in my state university IT program. It's a great field with a ton of money to be made, and I knew it was something I'd be good at. So, I went after it in college, and not to toot my own horn or sound arrogant, but I managed to graduate college with a 4.0 GPA. I was the president of the programming club at my school, as well as being actively involved in the engineering club as well. To put it mildly, I'd built up a pretty decent resume by the time I finished college. And when I graduated, it wasn't long before I was getting job offers. Now, money isn't the only reason I went to the IT field. I went into the field because I was passionate about it, as I said before. But I have to admit, some of these jobs were tempting. The money some of these jobs were offering me was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. To put things into perspective, all throughout high school, I had worked at fast food jobs. So, you might be wondering why I did not jump immediately at some of the job offers I was getting when I graduated college. Well, let me tell you all about my Uncle Dewey. I've never quite meshed with old Uncle Dewey. I love my parents, so I've always treated Uncle with respect out of respect for them. But I've never quite felt comfortable around him. He's nice enough, but always seemed kind of fake and not genuine. He's a bit of a suck-up, and the type of guy who will tell people what they want to hear whether he means it or not. That's the vibe I always got from him. My parents never seemed to notice anything, and obviously, with him being my father's brother, those two were always close, and I never spoke ill of Uncle Dewey around my parents. Especially not around my father, who seemed blind to any of the man's flaws. I didn't feel it was my place to badmouth a family member to them like that, so I always kept this stuff to myself. The most interesting thing to me about Uncle Dewey was he also shared a love of computers and technology, although I could see from the beginning he was not as skilled as my father or some of the other family members. You see, Dewey started his own IT firm, but I could always tell he was more interested in making money than actually doing any programming work himself. He wanted to hire other people to do the work for him so he could make the money. I get it, not everyone can be as into programming as I am, but I always got a slight impression that Uncle Dewey was secretly quite slothful and lazy beneath the sharp businessman image he tried to protect, with his expensive watches and fancy designer suits. Well, let's just say I should have listened to my gut a long time ago when it comes to Uncle Dewey. After graduating college, I remember excitedly telling my parents about the various job offers that had been coming my way. My mother was excited and so was my father, but he suggested that I'd be better off working with the family. He told my Uncle Dewey he needed someone to fill an important position for him on an important project. Frankly, at first I thought this was some nonsense Uncle Dewey had fed to my father to trump up the prestige of his IT firm. But the more I found out, the more working for my uncle began to appeal to me. I decided to discuss this with Uncle Dewey himself, and he told me that one of the biggest names in the tech field, Tommy Johnson, had given Uncle Dewey's firm an important programming project. While the name Tommy Johnson might not mean much to the outside people of the tech field, the guy was essentially a mini celebrity of sorts within us, and I knew that it could work on this project. I might have a shot at actually working with Tommy Johnson himself, even though I still had a weird feeling about working with Uncle Dewey. The conditions we agreed upon sounded great. In retrospect, the stuff Uncle Dewey was feeding me sounded almost too good to be true. He said I would be paid $10,000 for the completion of the project, as long as the project was approved by the client. Now, for those reading this, I want to be crystal clear. I could have gotten hired at a slew of jobs that I would have, paid me more and paid me with more regularity. But guys, this was Tommy Johnson we're talking about. Plus, Uncle Dewey made the project sound as if it'd been something of a breeze to complete. I knew it would be hard work if Tommy Johnson was involved because I knew he would expect nothing short of excellence in the job. But I still didn't know quite what a hard road I had in store ahead of me. I decided to take the job. IT firm experience when I was fresh out of college and working for the famous TJ as my first ever client on a project. Anyone in the IT field would have jumped on this opportunity. So I decided to say yes. We never signed a contract or any document related to my employment, and I thought that a verbal agreement would suffice since this was my uncle I was dealing with. I wasn't quite ecstatic to be working with Uncle Dewey, but I truly didn't think that he would make any attempt to screw me over in my work, so we proceeded without a contract. He told me that if my project was approved, he would certainly pay me the $10,000 and give me a permanent job right there at the IT firm. Sounded like a good deal. And again, it was my chance to get to know TJ. Once I started working at the IT firm and got intimately familiar with the sprawling assignments I've been given, I started to wonder about some things. I asked Uncle Dewey at the office one day why exactly the employee before me had abandoned the project. After all, any serious programmer would want to work on a project for TJ, right? Uncle Dewey assured me that the only reason his old employee had quit was due to a family emergency. Well, I didn't quite believe this, but I had no proof to the contrary, and I decided to keep pressing on with the project alone. That's right, I was totally alone the entire time working on the project, a solo dev. I got no help from Uncle Dewey, who was useless when it came to actually doing computer work, and since this was an advanced project, no one else in the office could help me with what I was doing. So there I was, painstakingly and meticulously going over every detail for 3 whole months, making sure this project was absolutely perfect. Keep in mind, since the verbal agreement between me and Uncle Dewey was that I'd been paid upon the completion and client approval of the project, I'd been slaving away on this project without as much as a penny. Meanwhile, my bills and responsibilities were growing. And to think I could have been making bank at another job at this point, but I was still invested in wanting to work with TJ. Finally, after 3 months of painstaking labor, I finally finished the project. I turned it in to my uncle and he sent it over to TJ's team to review, and when I was invited to the office conference room to discuss the project via a Zoom call, I had to do everything in my power to keep from screaming like a little fangirl when I saw Tommy Johnson's face on that screen. Still, I wanted to make a solid first impression, so I remained stoic and professional. We discussed the project and everything was in order except for some additions TJ wanted to, add on the user interface. I was so excited. Aside from the obvious joy I felt from getting personal approvals and kudos for my hard work from TJ, I was also excited to finally get paid. I was getting behind on my bills and I didn't want to keep asking my parents for assistance. I graduated college and wanted to be a self-sufficient adult, but it seemed like all of a sudden I could not track down Uncle Dewey. He was blowing off my phone calls or conveniently being, quote, too busy at work to meet up with me and discuss my payment. I began to grow livid and more time passed, and here I was still finishing the project and not a single dime had been put into my pocket yet. I was finally able to get a hold of Uncle Dewey at work. I tried to remain calm, professional, but at this point, I was furious because it was clear Uncle Dewey had been intentionally ignoring me. I could not figure out if he was having financial issues or what, but I was determined to get to the bottom of this. So, I confronted him. I realized organizing a meeting would be impossible since he was determined to ignore me. I had to barge into his office when he wasn't expecting me to show up. I asked him about the payment, and Uncle Dewey immediately began making excuses and trying to evade the question. I could feel my heart pounding. I had to raise my voice a bit and remind him that I've been slaving away on this project for Tommy Johnson for 3 months without receiving a dang penny. Finally, Uncle Dewey admitted that he could pay me half of what he promised, but only after I became a full-time employee at his company. He also said it would take time, about a month to be able to pay me. I could not believe this nonsense. I refused. Well, how about I just report you to the labor board? I think they'll be interested to hear how you didn't keep up your end of the bargain. That's when Dewey just starts laughing like an absolute hyena. I asked him what was so funny.
Yeah, good luck, bro. Getting our little contract enforced. You never signed anything. There was no employment document. I was going to pay you half of what I owe you, but now I don't think I'm going to pay you anything.
Guys, I was absolutely speechless from the sheer audacity of Uncle Dewey's dastardly dishonesty. I could not believe he would treat his own niece this way. I was beginning to think maybe Uncle Dewey's old employee quit the project for precisely this reason. Clearly, Uncle Dewey could not be trusted any more than I could throw him, and I told him he better watch out because I was going to get even with him and get my money. Somehow, or some way. So guys, here I am, venting here. I still just can't believe this happened at all. And since there was only a verbal agreement between me and old Uncle Dewey, I'm not sure what legal avenue I can even take for this. And I don't feel like I can be honest with my parents about the situation because I know my father would likely side with old Uncle. I do have one ace up my sleeve. I still have access to the project server I was working on. My uncle has no idea I have access. I can do some real damage. Update number 1. Hello, okay guys, so OP's here, and I'm back for another update. First, I'd like to thank everybody who left the kind and supportive comments on my post. It's truly meaning a lot to me, because I needed a place where I could vent free of judgment, right? If you read to the end of my last post, you'll know that I still had access to the project server. This shows how ignorant Uncle Dewey is. He knows so little about the field of IT and coding, and he did not even consider stripping me of any access to the project. I guess he didn't realize I have access to the server, from where I'd been asked by Tommy Johnson to make some adjustments to the user interface. Well, now nobody has access to the servers, not even old Uncle Dewey or TJ. Well, why, do you ask? I denied access to everyone except me. That's right, the way I see it, if Uncle Dewey doesn't want to pay me for the work I've spent 3 months slaving away at, why should he have access to the fruits of my labor? Well, sure enough, Uncle Dewey began to blow up my phone a few hours after I denied him access to the server. Text and phone calls galore. It's funny. When I was trying to arrange a meeting to discuss the payment he agreed that he owed me, Uncle Dewey was as hard to find as a needle in a haystack. But as soon as he needed something from me, well, I guess he was totally available. I just ignored his calls and texts, and what did he expect would happen? I never agreed to work for free. But here's where I'm scared now. The bravado I was feeling earlier subsided once I found out that Uncle Dewey went to my parents' house and told them that he intended to take me to court. Yeah, can Uncle Dewey even do this? He's the one who didn't pay me for the services rendered. Why should I get in trouble when I'm just keeping what I feel is rightfully mine? It's my project, and I spent 3 months working on it for free. And now my own uncle wants to sue me? This guy must be off his rocker. But I must admit I'm scared. Uncle Dewey has an IT firm and plenty of money to hire some fancy hotshot lawyer. I'm just a broke college graduate who currently doesn't even have a job. I should have just taken any other job offer in the world, rather than getting mixed up in this mess with Uncle Dewey. With all this drama going on, I'm not sure if it was even worth it getting a chance to work with Tommy Johnson. I don't know, guys. Can you just wish me a bit of luck? Update number 2. Hello. OP back here for another update. Again, thanks you for the kindness and support. I wasn't sure what to expect by posting this here, but I'm glad most of you seem to understand the type of person I'm dealing with when it comes to old Uncle Dewey. I just got off the phone with a friend of mine I have at the office who I've been in touch with off and on since I left. I've still been ignoring all of Uncle Dewey's crazy text and voicemails, and he's even taking to harassing me on Facebook and Twitter. I've been careful not to respond or do anything in retaliation that might be recorded online. I'm screenshotting every instance of harassment. I don't want to give this guy a leg to stand on in court. Well, I got some good news on the phone today with my friend from the office. This is what he said. OP, you're never going to believe what happened. Well, obviously, I was quite curious with that, so I asked her to go on. She told me there's a huge commotion in the office that day and my Uncle Dewey was acting irrational and angry. Apparently, TJ was suing Uncle Dewey. No wonder Uncle Dewey was being scrambled to get access to the program I designed. I suppose the threat of legal action was supposed to speed the process up, and I'm glad I was not intimidated or bullied into handing over the program I've spent so much time working on. According to my friend from the office, Uncle Dewey was way past the deadline on the project, and TJ got tired of the wait and demanded his money back once he figured out that I've left the project. I felt honored and slightly vindicated that TJ wanted me to work on the project, and once he found out I was out of the running, he wanted his money back. I'm not sure why Uncle Dewey can't just pay Tommy Johnson back the money, and I'm still not sure why he refused to pay me for that matter. All I know is Uncle Dewey isn't quite as good with money as he likes to pretend with all of us, with his fancy suit, his fancy hair, and it looks like all this double-crossing and backstabbing is beginning to catch up with him. Well, yeah, I'm glad Tommy Johnson is suing Uncle Dewey. I still want to get restitution for what I'm owed from this backstabber. Here's something quite interesting, guys. My friend from the office was kind enough to give me the phone number of Dean. You see, Dean is the same guy who left Uncle Dewey's IT firm and walked out on this Tommy Johnson project. I'm gonna call him up, contact him, and figure out if Uncle Dewey was even telling the truth about why Dean left. Updates number 3. Hey guys, OP here, back for another update, and I just wanted to fill you guys in on what happened, so I'm going to cut right to the chase. I called Dean on the phone and you won't believe what I found out. It turns out the suspicions I've been harboring towards Uncle Dewey were right all along. So far, I'm beginning to realize I should trust my gut on the matters in the future because I'd never been more right about anything in my life before this. So I call up Dean on the phone. He was surprised to hear from me, but I explained who I was and why I was calling. At first, he sounded a bit scared when I told him I was Uncle Dewey's niece. I quickly had to reassure him that I was not on Uncle Dewey's side on this matter, or any matter. Hello, Dean. You worked at the IT firm on the Tommy Johnson project, right? Right. Yeah, I spent months doing painstaking labor on the project, and I didn't even see a dime. Guys, my jaw nearly dropped, and I said, so, Uncle Dewey treats everyone this way? He worked you nearly to death just to exploit you for free labor? Dean confirmed, and he told me that he's been trying to get some sort of restitution from Uncle Dewey, but had been unable to reach him because of how evasive he's been. Uncle Dewey's clearly a coward when it comes to matters of conflict. He can't stand up for himself or own up to his own actions. Me and Dean discussed all the issues we had with Uncle Dewey, as well as how meticulously detailed and eloquent our work had been on the project. We were both passionate programmers, that was clear. And we had a lot in common, it seems, just based on the phone call. I can't say too much more until everything is set in stone, but let me just say that me and Dean have hatched up a plan that'll give Uncle Dewey the rude awakening he so desperately deserves. Update number 4. Hello, OP here with another update. I haven't been able to say too much because me and Dean have been preparing for a court case, so I apologize for not posting for a while. There was a lot of work and a lot of research to be done. First, me and Dean pooled our funds together to hire a local lawyer. I doubt this lawyer would be as good as the one Uncle Dewey can afford, but I might be wrong in assuming he can even afford a lawyer considering he has so much trouble paying people. You see, me and Dean are not the first ones Uncle Dewey has treated with such neglectful and rude behavior. If we don't win this court case, I suspect we won't be the last poor, unsuspecting employees who end up swindled and taken advantage of by this monster. Dean had to contact the info of 3 other employees, former, of Uncle Dewey's IT firm who had been swindled into performing free labor. Uncle Dewey used the same trick every time. He seemed to prey on young and eager college graduates who desperately wanted to get their foot in the door at the IT industry with a promising job. Well, turns out empty promises were all Uncle Dewey had to offer. Our lawyer was able to compile a great court strategy, one that would surely tug at the heartstrings of the judge. Our lawyer calculated that Uncle Dewey owed the five of us around $50,000, which was a huge number for a broke college student. You should have seen Uncle Dewey in court. He was arrogant. He actually showed up in court without a lawyer. Turns out even his threat to sue me for the Tommy Johnson project I still had on my computer was a bluff as well. Our lawyer called all five of us to the stand while we recounted what exactly had taken place. Best of all, I was able to show the project in the courtroom to the judge, who could see all the work that we have put into this. No wonder Tommy Johnson have been, so upset to sue Uncle Dewey. All five of us had sunk serious time into the very same project, and I think by the end of the court session, even Uncle Dewey knew he didn't have a leg to stand on. The judge showed not even the slightest bit of leniency. It was one of the quickest decisions I've ever seen. He banged his gavel after ordering Uncle Dewey to repay each of us the money. Uncle Dewey's reputation was going to be ruined. I knew my parents might not be happy about me going against the family like this, but this is what Uncle Dewey deserved, for double-crossing so many people like it was his purpose in life. Update number 5. Hey guys, this is going to be my last update. I have not been on here to update for a while because so much has been going on, and I've been quite busy. But I didn't want to leave you all hanging, so I decided to give you one last update just to wrap things up. First, Uncle Dewey and I are no longer on speaking terms. In fact, nobody in the family speaks to him. Once I explained to my parents the gravity of what Uncle Dewey did, they were totally and utterly shocked. My father felt betrayed and hurt that Uncle Dewey could do such a dirty deed to his own niece, and I was glad they sided with me and expressed regret for egging me to take on this IT firm job with Uncle Dewey. As for what I'm up to as far as my career, I think all this drama worked out for a good reason in the end. Not long after the court date was over, I got a call from TJ. We made small talk for a moment, and I was nervous since he's never called me, on a direct line before. But then he offered me a job with his company. Guys, working for Tommy Johnson is 1,000,000 times more prestigious and reputable than working for Uncle Dewey. And my favorite part, you ask? Tommy Johnson actually sends a paycheck. So in the end, things worked out, and I'm glad I endured this adversity after all, because my hard work still paid off. Maybe it wasn't in the way that I'd hoped for, but it paid off just the same. I'm also dating Dean now, and I never would have met him without all this drama. So guys, thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words and encouragement.
I mean, I don't know what OP's uncle was thinking. You can't just go around double-crossing people left and right and taking advantage of people. And the person they mentioned, Tommy Johnson, I couldn't find anyone of that name who is really good with coding online. I think that this OP probably used a fake name for this person so we wouldn't discover the identity. But either way, I'm just glad that Tommy Johnson finally saw what OP was valued at and gave her a job and what she rightfully deserved after being scammed by that two-time uncle of hers. Anyways, I do want to know your thoughts about today's story, what you would have done if you were in this position, because yes, this was a lot to go through considering it wasn't just a regular job who double-crossed OP, it was her own family. So drop down a comment down below what you would have done in that position. Thank you for joining me today. My name's Mr. Reddito, and if you guys want daily videos, all you have to do is subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya!